give a little I'm going to give a little overview of the project that we're doing and kind of give you guys the kind of all of the pieces of the grant. And then if you have any questions, you can definitely put them in the chat as we go. And then we'll have a time at the end for a question and answer also. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And I'll just make sure that you all can see something that says Lawn to Legume Demonstration Neighborhood. Are we good? Yes. I'm seeing some nods. Thank you. So this is just, like I said, a project overview. Our group has met twice now, so we are in the very beginnings of figuring things out. And so we're going to get you as much information as we can, but we don't want to pretend that we have figured everything out from start to finish. So just a little bit, oh, it's not letting me turn here. There we go. Just a little bit of the history of our involvement with this. The Lawn to Legume grant was brought to the committee by Suzanne Reese, who knew about it and was wondering if it was something that the Environment Committee would be interested in doing. And originally Dawn had said, I have some neighbors that might be interested in something like this, and got me connected with Julianne and Sue, who are both master gardeners in Subdistrict 4, which is, we'll show a map a little bit later on of where this grant is going to, kind of the boundaries of this grant. It was approved by I said equity committee. Sorry, my mind must have been with D12. It was the environment committee as a fiscal agent. And then I was just amazed at the outpouring of support by the Subdistrict 4 community. We had so many letters of support come in, including Blackhawk Soccer, who has kind of taken over the Orchard Rec Center over here, the Master Gardeners. We had a bunch of community members and other local pollinator sites send in letters of support for this grant in this area. Since putting the grant in, and then obviously it was approved, we have added 4 more people to our little planning team, all from Subdistrict 4, just neighbors that are interested in helping kind of roll this project out. So that's kind of where we're at this point. The location, like I said, is Subdistrict 4. It isn't all of Subdistrict 4. We kind of put a little neighborhood just to have some boundaries in there. And so you'll see that it's from the railroad tracks to Front, and then Como to Lexington there. And so most of you know that Subdistrict 4 goes a little bit longer, but for the demonstration neighborhood, we wanted a little bit more focus in there.
My daughter lives right there, so she's outside.
As far as the project scope, we have kind of divided into 4 main categories. And so the first one is the Boulevard Gardens and Bee Lawns. And we put those together mostly because they involved a lot of community engagement. So these are ones that will be placed in individual residents, like homes and properties in that sub-district. Then we have a community habitat at the Orchard Rec Center. So we'll be putting in a pollinator garden there. And then we have a pocket prairie on Jameson and Front. Let me see if I can, oh, I didn't zoom in enough to show where it is. It's kind of by that green, like Calvary Cemetery little point there. So a pocket prairie on Jameson in Front, and then working with forestry to put in blooming boulevard trees as part of the replacement plan for this area. And we'll talk more about each of these, obviously. So those are kind of the 4 sections that we've put it into. And the reason we put it into those sections were, I found that community members are really interested in maybe one but not the other. Like, they're really excited about the community engagement part, but don't really want to be like calling the city or county to figure out stuff with the pocket prairie or whatever it is. And so that allows us to maybe, as this project goes on, to split off into teams as we plan this, as we work with these things, to kind of put these into those 4 different categories. So I'm going to talk about each one. I'm not going to I won't read everything for you. We're going to put this PowerPoint up on our website too, so that you guys can look through it a little bit later. But the first one is an installation of up to 5 boulevard gardens and 4 V-lawns in the demonstration neighborhood. So in that map that I showed you earlier. So we'll be working with individual households, apartment buildings. Like, this is not limited to a physical home. It can be an apartment building. And we'll be working with a company to be able to install these gardens. So the goal would be for an organization to design and install each site. Sorry for the like vague language here. We just found out this morning that Metro Blooms is not going to have the capacity to do this. And so I had Metro Blooms in here. We're now looking for another company that we might be able to work with. So how we're going to do this is we're going to use community meetings to invite households to apply to be a pollinator site. I'll be talking about this a little bit more on the next slide, but the sites would be educated on installation, care, and pesticide-free maintenance of the pollinator habitats. And so you would get kind of information on what it is that you'd be committing to if you were one of these pollinator sites. And then the sites would need to commit to 5 years of care for their habitat. So kind of the timeline for this one, we were thinking about doing the community engagement pieces in May. So that are in late June, in June and July, I should say, that we can look at getting the education pieces out there, connecting about the design of the pollinator habitats and the boulevard or all of the habitats, and being able to install them this summer. So then just as far as the community engagement piece goes, we're looking to do 3 community meetings in at least 3 different formats. So one in person, we're looking at doing one at the front high rise if we can. Kind of a backup would be the Orchard Rec Center. We'll do one via Zoom, and then we'll have it available via webinar also, so that you can, if somebody can't make it to the meetings, that they can just watch this online. The meetings will have just like a general education piece. So anybody in our community, anybody in Como could come and learn something about pollinator gardens, installation, pollinator habitats, and pollinators. So we're working with master gardeners to kind of narrow the focus of those informational, educational pieces of the meeting. Then we'll have a Q&A. Again, this is for anybody to come and just learn about pollinators and different habitats. And then we will have a piece that's grant specific. So it's for people in the demonstration neighborhood that are looking to apply to be one of the pollinator sites. And so we would provide then information on how to apply, like what that commitment looks like, and any information or questions that they might have about like what that would look like to be a pollinator site. We do have some tentative community meeting dates. I didn't know if I should put them on here or not, because we still need to work out a lot of different details, but we're looking to have at least one in a morning or kind of mid, like lunch hour type thing, one in an evening, and then one on a weekend. So these are kind of our tentative dates. Again, we'll have a website up for you soon so that we can get information out on how these are going to look, but we still have to talk to master gardeners and the locations to see if we can do this. So like I said, the meetings will be in May so that we can start choosing sites and getting things ready in June. All right, so that was kind of, again, that first, the first section of projects would be those boulevard gardens and B-lawns. The second section then would be a larger pollinator garden at Orchard Rec Center. If you can believe it, I took these pictures like last week. I just see the snow on the ground is a little bit crazy. But yeah, so we are working with the Blackhawk soccer community. We are hoping, and they're pretty excited about being able to be the ones who maintain and keep up the pollinator garden there. And so we're working with them to kind of figure out where that's going to be, and you know, making sure they're, again, educated on how to keep that up. And so we're looking for a bigger one there. Again, the June, July installation is a hope for us. We'll we'll see how that works as we figure out organizations to work with. And then this one honestly is the kind of most daunting piece of the puzzle. So here's a better picture of the front and Jameson piece of land. We could go for a while on the history of this space. It's been really interesting finding out, you know, what has gone on there. But so we're looking to install a pocket prairie at this site. And obviously, like with our funding, we're not going to be able to like make the whole thing this beautiful haven. And so we're trying to, this one we will get to work with Metro Blooms on designing a site that maybe could be added onto in the future, whether it's raised bed like vegetable gardening, or whether it's, you know, having benches there. I've already reached out to a few different businesses who might be interested in kind of doing some next steps with that after we get started. But this is one that's going to really need to be thought about and designed out to figure out what it is we want to do and what is a larger scale plan that can be done even beyond this specific grant. So if we do end up working with Metro Blooms, again, this is all like in the works. So today I emailed them about that, about figuring this out. If we work with Metro Blooms, the timeline would likely be in spring of 2023 that we would actually be working at this site. And then the last piece is the blooming boulevard trees. So working on getting trees in that are pollinator friendly. And so we actually had somebody, Luke, who just recently joined our team, who works on the Met Council, who has some great connections and has been working with forestry to figure out what their plan is and how we can speak into what's already being done for tree replacement. And there's a couple reasons why the trees would be replaced. One piece that we want to do as a grant is also to just educate the community on the fact that they can like request what types of trees they get. If there's like a dead tree on their boulevard, that they can, you know, fill out a form to request a specific type of tree, and being able to give them the types of trees that are just are pollinator friendly and would promote that. So this one is one that honestly at our next meeting tomorrow, we're going to find out a little bit more on the timeline and what trees are going to be replaced and how that's going to work out. So that's the pieces of the grant. Like I said, we're still very much in the early planning stages of this grant and figuring out our timeline and working with Lawns to Legume to get everything together. But we wanted to get the information out there because I think once we hit the ground, we're going to hit the ground running. And so just being able to get as many community members on board and excited about it, and getting people involved in as many ways as we possibly can. So I wanted to put out there some ways that you can be involved. We have a planning team that meets Wednesdays from 1 until 2 o'clock. It's pretty informal. You can come as you can. It's been really cool to see that somebody will come and it's like, oh, you're a perfect fit for this piece of the puzzle. And then they might not be able to come the next time, and I can just keep checking in on them. But we do meet, so far it's been every Wednesday to be able to just discuss next steps for these things. You can definitely help with the community meetings, where my personal goal is to be able to get a flyer to every house in this little area for people to know about community meetings that are coming up, for people to get information on pollinators and what, even if you're not a site, what you can be doing to help promote that in our area. You can help with, you know, explaining this. If you are knowledgeable about community gardens, this area, excuse me, this area has a lot of amateur gardeners like me. I was actually just talking to a neighbor yesterday, and we were both sitting there going, man, we've tried doing this stuff for the last 3 years unsuccessfully, and we don't really know what we're doing wrong. And so it's a lot of amateur gardeners trying to do their best to like figure this out, and but are very interested in this world. And so even just being at the in-person or being at the Zoom event, answering questions in the chat, answering questions in real life, you know, I think that's going to be a huge just community building piece to this project that I'm really excited about. Obviously there's the logistics of like in person, so setting up, tearing down. I forgot to put on here too, like tabling. We're going to be tabling at some upcoming events just to get the information out there to community members that we're doing this work. And so if that's something that you are interested in, you can do that. The other thing that we're kind of just formulating at this point too is also just working with individual sites, like understanding that people who are looking for this grant might not be experts in this area, probably won't be. And so, you know, maybe even matching up some people who know a little bit more with some of the sites so that they can make sure that these are successful gardens and that they can troubleshoot with them if needed. And then there will be some work days. We'll again keep up with the sites that we're at to be able to plant during the initial stages of things, but also then to come back in, you know, spring, summer 2023 and help people with the second season of their pollinator garden. So I put my email down there. I'll put it in the chat too after this, but I am good for some Q&A, and otherwise always feel free to get in touch with me. Easy to remember organizer at district10comopark.org. So you can always email me if you have any further questions or want to get involved in some way. That's it for me. So if you guys have questions, I haven't looked at the chat in a little bit. Oh yeah, I should say this out loud. Our meetings are on Zoom, so I would just send you the link if it ever gets warmer. I know it will, but if it ever gets warmer, it would be very fun to be able to meet at some of our locations that we're looking at some of the bigger community gardens for, or at least, you know, just getting together in a park or something like that. Oh, I am seeing now all the questions. Sorry, guys, I'm backing up.
Just to ask about the Jameson site and what.
Okay, let me click on a different page. Here we go. All right. Would digging be allowed at the Jameson site? This is something we're looking into right now, but it sounds like, and please help me, my team, but it sounds like it is a cleaned up site. And so it is something where we can do digging, we can do planting. There's a huge hesitancy though on planting edible food. So that's where a pocket prairie is something where you're not having people eat the food that is coming out of the ground is a more of an ideal situation than doing like a garden. And that's why even this committee was looking at raised beds if we were to do any sort of gardening there.
I think that with the history of the site, that sod removal and then some preparation for the soil, maybe a tree planting, those sorts of things, perfectly appropriate for that site. And yes, the city and even the MPCA have guidelines as to using raised beds on that site because of the type of conditions. It is a closed Superfund site. They have done their last remediations and reports, I believe. And so we would follow anything that would happen at that site would follow those guidelines. And I do believe that you and Shevik had done the background check on that, as well as another Luke, committee member, and the site is owned by the county currently, yes?
Yep. So right now the site is owned by the county. And so Luke is doing some digging just because sometimes that can change hands depending on how long it's. So he's looking to make sure that we're not going to like do something there and then all of a sudden the city gets it, makes a park or something. There's no long-term plans for it at this point. He was able to uncover that, but he's looking into making sure that we're not doing something that will then just be torn up in a year or so. Any other questions?
Question. I can't
Yeah.
find my hand thing.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand where the name came from. Where's the legumes?
You know what? I asked that question the other day or got asked that question the other day, and I thought, I'm not sure. I don't know if our grant just didn't do that piece of it. Does anybody else want to answer? Are there other lawns to legume programming that is more legume oriented, or was it just a clever name?
But yeah, for us, it came because the grant is called Lawns to Legumes.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we're calling it that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Actually,
So,
Nothing to do with legumes, which exactly what brought me to here.
oh no.
And
So-
who
Yeah.
is Lawns to Legumes? Is it county money or what?
No, it's legacy money, and it's distributed through a grant program through Bowser. And Lawns to Legumes is so taking turf lawns and shifting them to a more pollinator friendly type model. And those would include a lot of legumes. So partridge pea, violets, lots of plant types fall in that category.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And Jessica, is it the north and south sides of front or just the north side?
I'm sure we could say either of them. I mean, but how it was, I mean, the map that I gave you guys was the map that we gave them. So I think the assumption is that it was within those lines. You know, depending on how much interest though, maybe we need to expand it a little bit. But yeah, I think the assumption was that was within those lines.
The north, so it'll be the north side of front, because I can think of a couple of people on the south side of front that, I mean, front is just so visible, of course, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Very exciting. Congratulations on getting the grant, you guys.
Yes, we are so excited. And yeah, I think there are a lot of neighbors here tonight. So Shevik, you can maybe confirm this, but I'm assuming that the site will be like the District 10 Como Park.org/L2L. Is that what it will be?
We can definitely make that happen.
Okay, so I mean, we can definitely send out updates, but yeah, if you're wanting to be, even if you're not wanting to be in on planning, but want to know as we clarify a little bit more the wording around applying to it and what that looks like, or what commitment level that would hold, feel free to either just direct message me in the chat, and you can give me your email address, or you can get in touch with me with my email that I will drop in the chat right now. If you just want to be up to date. So I'm willing to send out as many or as few emails as you specifically want. I know sometimes that's a scary thing to give somebody your email and say, sure, just send me information on this. But even at the most, I tend to send out one email right before our meeting and one email right after our meeting. And then I try to keep it to a minimum after that.
I got one other thought, just thinking of, you know, the woodland over, you know, south of the conservatory grounds and everything. And there's prairie and, you know, raised gardens, raised beds, that maybe there's someone at parks, people here knows that person at the Parks Department, right? Or at the Como Conservatory that might be interested or might be willing to be kind of an advisor too.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought. I don't know those people, but I think somebody here does.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was initiated through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a thought. So all that was initiated through this environment committee, Ted is saying. So just to link them to the project, I think that'd be a great idea. Use our city resources, use those people we're paying.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if there are any other questions, you can definitely drop it in the chat, send an email, or raise your hand. But that's all we have. So thanks so much for coming and listening to that. Like I said, we're so excited. Oh, I do want to introduce some of the people that have been working on it. Julianne, if you can just wave or maybe raise your hand. She's been amazing. She's the one who posted this on, you know, Nextdoor and the Como Facebook page. Let me look, Dawn connected us all in the first place. So we are just thankful, and her expertise has been amazing. I don't want to miss anybody else. Okay, so Dawn, Julie were actually like the ones that, and then Sue were the ones that were there as we were drafting this grant and trying to get everything pulled together in a relatively short amount of time. So I just want to thank them for that too. So thank you so much for letting us share tonight.
Yeah, awesome. Really exciting, kind of expansive work. So, and community building at the same time. So, yeah, congratulations to all of you. Very, very exciting. Yeah, and I will add your information to the minutes.